What is accent? Taught by Sherry Summers.
Word connections. You can probably guess what that is. Again, if you have learned English from a book, you may be seeing each word individually, like I am speaking, but nobody speaks like that. If you're used to reading more than listening, you may tend to speak word by word as well. That's not how it's done. When we speak English, we connect everything together. The only time we stop connecting is when we come to some kind of pause, which often is a thought group, or in writing you'll see a comma or a period. But everything else, it's all hooked together, word after word after word. The only reason we don't do that when we're writing is it's much easier to distinguish each word if we put a space between them. But when we speak, we don't put a space between the words. We connect them all together. Listen to that. We connect them all together. Everything's connected. So this is what I mean by word connections. And finally, you'll see pronunciation. This is probably what you thought accent was all about. Pronunciation. Pronunciation is also called articulation. Articulation and pronunciation is how you produce the sounds. What is going on in your mouth to make the sound? If I say the sound b, b as in baby, I put my lips together, I use my voice, I let a little air come out between the lips, and I make the sound b. Articulation is how the sound is made, and it's also called pronunciation. So looking at all of these, and we may have some disagreement on this is okay. What do you think is the most important part of learning a new accent? Now, I should rephrase that. What do you think is most important to be understood? Which of these 4 parts of accent is most important to be understood by another person, particularly a native English-speaking person? Go ahead and take a look. Is it voicing? Is it rhythm and intonation? Is it word connections or pronunciation? What do you think? And if you'd like, go ahead and write it down. And what do you think is next most important? And next most important? And finally, what do you think is least important to be understood? Just go ahead and jot those down. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. What do you think? Now let me give you my opinion and the opinion of most accent trainers. What did you say for most important? A lot of people will say pronunciation. I agree that pronunciation is so important. You can't be well understood without correct pronunciation. However, the most important part of accent is rhythm and intonation. Even if you make mistakes in pronunciation, you will be more understood with those pronunciation mistakes than you will be with intonation mistakes. Let me give you an example. One time a student came to me and she said, Sherry, every day I go to Starbucks. Every day I order the same thing. And every day the person says, What? What did you say? What do you want? And I said, oh, really? Well, what do you order? And she said, I ordered an Americano. I said, Americano? Oh, I know what that is. That's coffee and hot water together. And she said, yes. And I said, oh, well, tomorrow go back to Starbucks and don't order an Americano like American. Order an Americano with the stress on the con. An Americano, not Americano. The pronunciation was practically the same. She went back the next day, corrected the intonation, and the clerk understood, and she got what she wanted. She wanted an Americano. Intonation is extremely important for the other person to understand you. They will forgive your pronunciation problems, but honestly, sometimes they won't understand you if your intonation is off. Intonation is very important. In this course, we're going to spend a lot of time on intonation. What did you put next? If you said pronunciation, I agree. Pronunciation is also extremely important for being understood. Just one step less than intonation. Now, let me ask you something else. In pronunciation, we have pronunciation of vowel sounds like ah, ah, e, and we have pronunciation of consonant sounds, b, k, d. Of those two groups, what would you guess is most important to be understood? Vowel sounds or consonant sounds? I would have to say vowels. Vowels are more important because if you make a mistake with consonants, quite often the listener will be able to understand what you're trying to say. But if you make a mistake with vowels, you may be saying a completely different word. So vowels are just a little bit more important, in my opinion, than consonants. Okay, so most important is the rhythm and intonation. Second, pronunciation. How about third? Now remember, my question was, what is important to be understood? We can argue about this, and I don't know that there's a really correct answer, but in my opinion, I would say word connections. Learning to connect words together. This won't actually always help you be understood, but it will definitely make you sound smoother and easier to listen to. So finally, voicing. Voicing is probably the least important thing to be understood. But one thing about voicing is if you want to sound like you have some power when you speak English, this is something that you need. It's not necessarily going to help you be better understood, but it's going to help you sound more in control, more empowered. And if you're working somewhere or even you're a student, you want to have this. You want to show that you are a strong person, intelligent person. This kind of thing will give you a little bit more power. And that's not something most people will tell you. But if you speak with a little bit deeper, more confident voice, you can sometimes get more of what you want. If, for example, if I said, I want a promotion, or I want a promotion, what do you think that the boss would be more impressed with? Probably a little bit deeper voice. So while it is not so important for understanding, it is important for you. So work on that.